So it's the Demon Tweeks Yokohama Locost Championship cars heading out onto the grid for their first of 3 races this weekend. They have 1 race today and 2 races tomorrow. So rounds 3, 4 and 5 of the championship this weekend. We've already had a couple. Those were at Donington Park. You may have seen those on Easter Monday. And the man that's come into this weekend leading the championship is Carl Roysenars with 36 points. He's 2 points clear of Martin West. They split the wins between them at Donington. It was Martin West that won race 1. Carl Roysenars didn't win race 2 on the road because Tom Robinson did, but was then penalised. And so it was Roysenars that was eventually credited with the win from Paul Clark and Mark Burton. So that's the way the championship looks. Roysenars from West, Paul Clark, Mark Burton 4th, Jeff Peake 5th, and Gary Brandon in 6th position coming into this weekend. This the series for 1300cc Ford Crossflow engined cars. The design of these cars is based on a book written by one champion 20 odd years ago now. It was originally called Build Your Own Sports Car for as little as £250. But let's have a look at the grid. Well, let's already go on to row number 5 there. So Mark Burton and Matt Grow. It is on row 5. Jack Johns and Rob Fagg on row 6 of the grid. Jeff Peake and Sean Frame row 7. Andrew Tate and Tim Penstone-Smith lining up on row 8. Usually races better than he qualifies though. Glenn Boyer and Rob Apsley row 9. Paul Keynes and Jonathan Lissett at row 10. Craig Land and Dave Berry, again a bit further back than he would have liked to have been, row 11. Avery Vickerman and David Johns row 12. On the 13th row, Jack Chapman and Jonathan Higgins from David Mason and Trevor Faunch. Alexander Artis, newcomer this season, and the experienced Keith Malpas on row 15. Jake Boydell and Russell Atwood on the 16th row. And it's a very busy grid once again, as you can see. Stephen Wright and William Ward on the 17th row. Then you've got Paul Williamson, does have Keith Fry alongside him, Gary Prandon, and do we have Simon Walker-Hansel right at the back? The answer is we do, so that will be well worth watching as the cars go off onto a green flag lap. So yes, these the front row of the grid, was, by the way, is Thomas Gazan, Louis Wall, Pete Hatfield and Carl Roysenars, the championship leader on row 2, the man who's second in the championship, just behind him on the inside of row 3. Next, Paul Clark, who's third in the championship. Greg Smith and Roy Shepherd on the 4th row, so we didn't quite get a chance to read you that out, but that was how the first few rows went up. So yeah, the cars, based on the book by one champion, Build Your Own Sports Car for as little as £250. That was the premise of it. They're built to that blueprint. There's very limited modifications that you can do to the suspension. There's discs and calipers on the front, drums on the rear as far as brakes are concerned. They use gearboxes out of basically old Ford Escorts or Sierras, and they all run on 13-inch Yokohama A539 tyres. And they always produce, Andy, really, really good racing.
They do, don't they? They're not the most aerodynamic of cars, therefore slipstreaming becomes a big factor, even on a circuit like this with only 1 or 2 long straights. So we should still see lots of drafting, lots of side-by-side racing. And now that it's getting a bit drier, that should only increase that as well. So and so many potential front runners in qualifying is very tight. The top 5 were covered by less than a second. The next second, though, covered everyone from 6th down to 13th on the grid. Incidentally, I don't think we have the 13th place starter Jeff Peake out there. I think there was a gap on the grid where he should have been, which is a shame. But then Jeff did only complete 3 laps in qualifying, so I imagine that's a mechanical issue that has sidelined him.
That's a great shame then for Jeff, if he's not going to be out there. But yeah, it should be very competitive. When you bear in mind that the man that lines up in 9th on the grid, Mark Burton, he won all 3 races here last year in quite dramatic fashion as well. And Mark Burton went on to be the champion in 2018 with 9 wins in his first full season of car racing. But it'd be interesting to see what he can do from a little bit further back on the grid today. The thing is with low cost, you can't write anyone out, really, because you tend to get a big pack of them going around. They are, as we've said, only powered by 1300cc Ford Crossflow engines, so they're not very powerful. They are brick-shaped, so they are not much cop aerodynamically, so that you get quite a big slipstream off these cars, and so the racing tends to be almost a little bit NASCAR-esque at times, and we have been known to have some bump drafting go on in low-cost racing. The races, if you saw them at Donington Park in April, were quite brilliant, possibly a little bit too exciting at times in terms of some of the late braking manoeuvres. There was a few incidents, a little bit of contact, but that's not the norm. and hopefully we'll have some good clean racing today. Tom Gadd, he was certainly in amongst it at Donington, demonstrated good pace there, but was rolled out in somebody else's incident in the second race, and so a non-finisher. So he will be looking to have better fortunes here at Croft this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. So will lots of drivers, I think, who will feel that they've got pace to run a bit better than they qualified. Escaping the tow, though, is crucial, isn't it, in low-cost racing? So if we do see a bit of a mix-up at the front, if one or two are able to escape as a result, then they could be the ones we expect to see fighting for the victory in about 15 minutes' time.
And we'll have to watch out for Simon Walker-Hansel from the back of the grid. Only managed one lap in qualifying. We know he's quick. We've seen him win already this season in Civics, haven't we?
We have, and in Citroen C1s as well.
And in Citroen C1s, in back-to-back weekends at Silverstone.
Yeah.
Anyway, green flag waved at the back of the grid. 5-second board is shown. It's Tom Gadd and Louis Wall on the front of the grid. Oh, someone creeping a bit further back. The lights now do go out. Pretty even start then between the two front row drivers, but we'll see who it is that turns in first. You've got Peter Hatfield and Carl Boysenars in the blue car on the second row of the grid, but it's the 44 car of Wall, and then it looks like the 6th car of Peter Hatfield that are filling the first two places. Tom Gadd has dropped back to about 5th place then as they turn their way through Clervaux Corner for the first time. This big field, 38 cars we have on the grid here at Croft this weekend in the Deep and Tweeks Yokohama Locost Championship. The number 88 car you can see going through shot there right in the middle of the field was Jack Chapman, but that's how it looks up towards the sharp end of the race. It's Louis Wall leading, but it's nose to tail for second place between Carl Boysenars and Peter Hatfield. Yeah,
Hatfield was already using that bump drafting technique to push the two cars, physically push the two cars along down the back straight to try and avoid the situation where the race leader starts to escape and break the tow. Doesn't really help Hatfield on the exit of the corner though, because he's got a car up the inside of him as they go towards the Jim Clark S's. That is the outside line through the right-hander, or left-hander, but the inside for the right-hander. That was Thomas Gadd, I think, wasn't it, that was going through to third place. So Hatfield down to fourth, and Gadd immediately uses that momentum as a springboard onto the tail of the leading two. So it's, 1, 2, 4, 6, only 7 cars in this lead train for the time being, but they are very close together indeed.
The time being the key phrase in that sentence, I think. There's Mark Burton going through with the number 1 on his car. The Union flag liveried car is that of Tim Penstone Smith. It's always distinctive. We've got a car off there at Tower. That's gone off into the barriers by the looks of it.
Roysenars is off though.
Yeah, Roysenars is off at the complex as well, and now we've got the red flag out too. So the race being stopped, I think, because of the car that's off at Tower Corner. We can't identify who that is just at the moment, but that's a reprieve then for Roysenars, who spun going into the complex. We'll go back to the original grid for this, because he would have been right at the back of the field had the race continued.
He'd just taken the race lead as well, hadn't he? Dived up the inside of Louis Wall into the complex and then overshot, I think, on the still very greasy circuit. The inside line not being the racing line, therefore was rather slippery, and so that was a close call there for Roysenars. He has rejoined and will now be able to resume his grid position towards the front. The car that's gone off at Tower, I think the driver's out, isn't he? Who is it, Ian?
The driver is out of the car. It's number 28, Dave Berry, I'm afraid to say, that has had that off down at Tower. I think he's connected with the tyre barrier, so he's going to be another non-starter, I'm afraid to say. And we will go back to the original grid, because we'd had less than 2 laps. We'd had less than 1 lap, indeed, when the red flag went out. And so what normally happens in these circumstances, the cars get re-gridded, because it is the original grid. They can go. That can happen fairly quickly. We don't need the new grid to be issued by the timekeepers, and we'll get a possibly slightly reduced race distance. But it worked well in that the drivers could stop on the grid straight away. They didn't need to complete another lap. So if that car can be cleared and the driver is okay, it shouldn't be too much of a delay before we get back underway.
Yeah, and hopefully not too much damage done to the tyre wall either, which is always a concern in these instances. Like it was a fairly hefty whack that the car has given to the wall, but they're built well, and the driver out of the car with a slightly bruised car, but he appears to be okay, Dave Berry. So that is the only car I think that we lost on the opening lap as well, so we should be able to get the race underway fairly shortly with just the one car that needs to be recovered. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Ian. Carl Roysenars really benefiting from his red flag. We don't like to see red flags, but Carl, I'm sure, wasn't too disappointed to see the red flags greeting him as he rejoined from that spin at the complex.
No, hearing reports as well that the throttle may have stuck open on the car involved in the incident down there. No doubt that will be checked out, but it does look like a hefty impact for Dave Berry, and hopefully there's not too much damage on his car and he'll be able to get back out before too much longer. But the recovery crew out at work to clear that car from the circuit before we get the racing back underway. Tom Gall, of course, didn't make the best of starts to that race either, so it's another chance for him. He'd got back to, I think, third, hadn't he, when the red flags came out, but he'll be hoping to get away from the line a bit better this time. So we'll see what he can do. What we didn't get a chance to see is where Simon Walker-Hansel got to on the opening lap of the race, from the back of the grid.
No, I have to say,
he can get.
Yeah, I didn't spot that, but he, I'm sure, will make progress because it's Simon Walker-Hansel, who is a very, very quick driver. He's one of those drivers, isn't he, that can go out in any sort of car, it would seem, and be on the pace. And he's got good racecraft to go with it as well. And Simon Walker-Hansel of T-Cars fame a few years ago now, he was part of one of the early sort of junior racing formulae in the country. And Simon has been racing there for longer than you might imagine. But yeah, he in the black and green Eco Trailers livery car at the back of the grid, car number 60, definitely want to keep an eye out for. We spotted as well a bit of creeping, didn't we, on the initial start? Cars 33 and 75, 33 Glenn Boyer, 75 Paul Keynes. We couldn't really miss it because they were right in front of us, watching out of the commentary box window. They, I suppose, will now potentially get away with any penalty they may have received because of that, but they'll have to be a bit careful not to have a repeat on the restart when we get it, and hopefully that won't be too far away because the recovery process is underway at the far side of the circuit. The hard-working British marshals are, as ever, doing their bit. The volunteer marshals who do this simply for the love of the sport, the Orange Army, do such a good job week in and week out, regardless of the conditions, regardless of how long they're out on post for. They continue to be some of the best marshals in the world, and without them we couldn't enjoy days like this. So thank you to all of the marshals, particularly those of them at the moment who are dealing with the stricken car up at Tower, which is being, I think, put onto the low loader as we speak.
Indeed. Now, another aspect of this is that unless Mark Burton comes through to win this race from row 5, which is not impossible, then that is quite a heavy hit that's taken, isn't it? The Dave Berry car on the front left, which is connected with the tyre wall first. But yeah, unless Mark Burton wins, then we'll have a new Croft winner. None of the other drivers racing here this weekend have won in Locosts at Croft, and I stopped myself there because I thought someone Walker-Hansel probably has won something at Croft at some point in the past, but not in Locost. Yeah, M3 Cup quite possibly, maybe other things as well. Yeah, we should get a new low-cost winner, at least as far as Croft is concerned. Say Mark Burton it was that won all 3 times last year. It is early days in this championship, though, but there's a lot of races now in a very short space of time, because we've got 3 races this weekend, and then in 2 weeks' time we go to Anglesey, and the low costs are out there as well. So they've got for another triple header, so they have 6 races in the space of 16 days. So that's quite an intense period in the championship. It's a bit tighter than it might be. We're due to race at Silverstone a week later than Anglesey, but that meeting has been called off, so Silverstone can resurface their circuit ahead of the British Grand Prix and MotoGP as well, given the problems they had last year. Number 82 you're looking at, Paul Clark, little Clarky, on the 3rd row of the grid, and he was certainly in the thick of the action last time out at Donington Park. He took 1 second place finish, and he was it always goes well. Now, problems for Paul Keynes on the grid by the looks of it.
Yeah, lots of fluid coming out of the car, and it's overheating, I think, quite badly. I think he's noticed, but other drivers around him on the grid have also noticed and are waving frantically at the marshals to come and deal with it. They're also pushing the number 42 car of Andrew Tate back, although I think that's just pushing him back into his correct grid position, is he? I'm not too sure. So yeah, 1 or 2 issues on the grid. Towards the midfield on the right-hand side, driver's right-hand side of the grid, is where the issues are for the 45 car, which has now shed all of its fluid, so there's no more smoke coming out of it, but that's probably because whatever the fluid was has now run out. There is the 42 car being remanoeuvred as well. A few others are doing likewise, because I think we're getting ready for a a restart or what maybe another green flag lap possibly first. But yeah, 42 won't fire back up, so that's an issue for Andrew Tate. But they now have a load of fluid that's been dumped on the grid by the number 75 car of Paul Keynes, which may or may not be able to get going for this restart.
Andrew Tate, I think, finally does get fired up in the 42. So, a bit of juggling to be done. Meanwhile, down at Tower Corner, it looks like the circuit is clear. There's still one marshal the wrong side of the barrier, in that he's the racetrack side of the barrier, but I'm sure he's just doing the final checks, and yeah, he's just moving back towards his post now. So we shouldn't be too far away from getting back into the countdown procedure just as soon as we have sorted out who's in which position. But I don't fancy Paul Keynes' chances here.
No, me neither. That didn't look particularly good. He's still in the car is still on the grid, and he's not receiving any attention from the marshals, but yeah, there was a lot of steam coming from the front of what I presume to be radiator fluid, which is poured out onto the already slightly damp circuit. And the back of the grid, Simon Walker-Hansel receiving attention as well, or is he just being shimmied into position? I think he is. So yeah, I think we're not far away now from a restart, and we will hopefully be able to get some notification of what length of restart we will get as well. It should have been 13 minutes plus 1 lap, this race. Of course, this has eaten into that time rather. Engines are being fired back up now, and I think we're about to see some signs of life down on the grid, and they will go on to presume another green flag lap, Ian?
Yes, they may do, they may not though. Looking at it, I don't think we are, but there's still more cars to be shuffled around. Andrew Tate, is he in the wrong place still?
He's stalled again, I think.
Are they going to this one say, it's your last chance, Andrew?
They're trying again. I think the trouble is they're pushing him right to the front of the grid, by which point it fires up, and then as they push him back, it stalls again. Number 36 now has stalled.
As one problem gets sorted out, another one arises a bit further back on the grid. Keith Fryer, number 36 now, needing attention from 3 marshals at the back.
Yeah, they should be out. I think that might be why they were repositioning Simon Walker-Hansel, so that he can go around them whilst they're going to push that car into the pit lane. So number 36, there it is on the screens. Unfortunately they're going to try and give it... Oh no, there you are, it fires up again. Now will he reverse back onto the track or drive down the pit lane? It appears it's the first of those 2 options that he's choosing. Selects reverse gear and goes back to where he was. So eventually we'll have all of the cars working, all of the engines fired up, and we'll be able to get a restart. But there's a bit more gesticulation going on now as well in the middle of the grid with a few more issues. Off the grid is going... That's 42, that's Andrew Tate. Right, can we go racing again now? 1 minute board is out, Ian.
Thank goodness for that. We should be back underway very shortly then, and I don't think we'll go straight in to the race. We'll wait and see exactly how long it's going to be. We might lose a little bit of time from the original 13 minutes plus 1 lap, with a few races still to get through this afternoon. So is Tom Gadd, number 12 on pole position, number 44 Louis Wall with the Dayglow roll cage and the Dayglow wheels next to him. Is the white car for number 6 Peter Hatfield, the blue car for number 84 Carl Royce. As the lights go out, and away they go, and it's a pretty even start again between the 2 front row men, although I think Wall has made slightly the better of the starts. Does everyone get away safely? It looks like they more or less do. And again, it's Wall that leads. It's been another bad start from Tom Gadd. Again, it's like deja vu, this, isn't it? You've got Peter Hatfield there in second. You've got 1 wide, which is Sean Brame. He's off into the gravel. Something I think is... Well, no, it's not broken on that car because he does manage to rejoin. So a bit of chaos down at Clairvaux for the first lap. It wouldn't be a race at Croft without a bit of chaos at Clairvaux on the first lap, would it? And now, for the lead, you've got Peter Hatfield right in the tow of number 44 Louis Wall. You've got Carl Royce there in third, Martin West fourth, but for the lead down into Tower Corner it is still Louis Wall just about hanging on.
Yeah, but better start this time for Peter Hatfield. He was third at this point on the initial start, but he's about to be third again because he slides wide through Tower, and that will allow Carl Roycenars alongside and possibly ahead as they go to the Jim Clark S's. Yes, it does. So Hatfield back down into third position now. Fourth place looks to be Louis Wall. I think 6th position this time around, isn't it, for Thomas Gadd from the pole position spot. So not a good start this again for Gadd. Worse, in fact, than his first start. There he is at the back of the group. So 6 cars for the lead as they go through Sunday for the first time, and it is Louis Wall once again who does the best job off the line.
Yeah, and Tom Gadd, the pole position man, I think he's in about 5th position at the moment. So he's not managed to carve his way through as he did on the original start just yet. In the background you can see number 1, Mark Burton, still in about 9th position as they come into the complex then for the first time. Wall, Roystonars, Hatfield, West, Gadd and Clark, the top 6, heading towards the hairpin now. And then it looks like it's Murray Shepherd, the number 2 car, the ex-championship winning Okavi and Ali there in 7th place. As they make their way back onto the start and finish straight to complete lap number 1 of this race. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, it's hard to see where the first gap is, isn't it, really? There's a lot of cars all in the line, that's for sure.
Watching for progress from Simon Walker-Hansel, by the way, 18th from about 37th-ish on the grid, which isn't bad going in the opening lap. He's somewhere behind the leader, of course, but he's doing well. Out of Clairvaux, though, and Hawthorne goes the leading train, and it is definitely Louis Wall that still leads the way, but now with Carl Roystonars behind him. Now, does Carl choose to work with him or pull out of the tow to try and overtake? He decides to push the race leader down the straight, and I think that possibly Peter Hatfield will do likewise as they hit the braking zone at Tower in single file order. Wall leading the way, Roystonars second, Hatfield third, 4th position for Tom Gadd as he starts his fight back again. 5th place then for Martin West, and Paul Clark, I think it is, still at the tail end of the leading 6, and leading the next little pack is Murray Shepherd in car number 2, trying to chase this lot down.
This is going to be one of those races that you can't really take your eyes off, isn't it? Because we've got a pack of 8 or 9 cars here, still in the lead. Peter Hatfield there, trying to find a way past Martin West. And it's Murray Shepherd that's trying to make up a lot of ground into Sonny. Gets badly out of shape, but still goes through. Well done, Murray. That's well done there, sir. Paul Clark just behind both of those in the sort of lime green car. Here come the leaders, though, down to the complex for the second time. And now it's Tom Gadd that's starting to come back into the equation as well, isn't it? And he goes level pegging for second around the first part of the complex. And he's done it. And the second part of the complex, it's through to second place goes the pole position man Tom Gadd then. So it's Louis Wall leading, Tom Gadd second. Martin West is third. Carl Roystonars down to 4th place. It's Murray Shepherd now 5th. Peter Hatfield 6th. Paul Clark 7th. 8th then is the number 69 car of Greg Smith. 9th is the reigning champion Mark Burton. And rounding out the top 10 is going to be Glenn Boyer.
Simon Walker-Hansel is 13th now, though, so he is in touch, essentially, with the leading pack of cars. This is phenomenal stuff, and unsurprisingly, Ian, he set the fastest lap of the race as well.
143.67. The leading pack were doing 144s. So watch out for the Eco Trailer back car of number 60, Simon Walker-Hansel. He's just tucked him there behind Rob Fagg, the former classic stock hatch racer. But for the lead, though, it's side by side as they head down towards Tower Corner. It's Tom Gadd that's got the inside line in the number 12 car. The driver from Lincolnshire goes through on the inside to take the lead of the race away from the man from Cirencester, number 44, Louis Wall.
Now, he's made that look very easy, hasn't he? Because he's sort of carved his way through from 6th 2 laps ago to be in the lead. But I guarantee that he will not be able to escape because of the slipstream effect with these cars. Already, Louis Wall is almost fighting back as they go through Barcroft, but in reality I think they're probably going to try and work together here, in theory anyway, to pull away from the cars behind. They're being led by Martin West in 3rd. Carl Roystonars, who was 2nd about a lap or so ago, is down to 4th. A mistake for the race leader Tom Gadd as he goes through Sunny Inn. There's quite a bit of camber in the road there, though, which catches him and gets him back in line. There is Simon Walker-Hansel, number 60. So Simon Walker-Hansel, I reckon, if he's not in the top 10, he's just outside of it, which is remarkable stuff after less than 3 laps.
Yeah, and he's not far away from getting on terms with the leading group. Off the circuit there goes Rob Fagg, former stock hatch racer, we should say. Doesn't quite keep it out of the barriers. He heads off at the complex, off camera shot. In the lead of the race, though, it is still Tom Gadd. He's starting to get away, actually, from number 44, Louis Wall, in 2nd place. Martin West is in 3rd, Carl Roystonars 4th, and then the rest coming through. So let's have a look. Where does Simon Walker-Hansel come through on the screens this time? He is showing 11th now, all of 3 100ths behind Jack Johns.
Up the inside goes Murray Shepherd there, past Carl Roystonars for 4th position. Wherever you look, there are places changing hands. Walker-Hansel is 11th, out of the race, by the way, unfortunately, is the car that spun down at the complex, that of Rob Fagg, number 48, so he's out of the car, but the car is more or less out of harm's way, I would imagine. 7.25 minutes to go then, so we're still only not even halfway through this restarted race. It's been a fantastic affair so far. The top 2 getting away slightly, Tom Gadd and Louis Wall. Martin West was 1.2 seconds off the race lead, so about half a second behind 2nd place man as they went through Tower, and then they got back to 4th place Murray Shepherd.
The fastest man on the circuit, though, is Greg Smith, number 69, in 8th place. He did a 1:43.25 on the last lap, so watch out for him. He's in the leading group as you can see on screen, going wide there, Peter Hatfield. No, that was Murray Shepherd, wasn't it? I beg your pardon. As he was side by side with Carl Royce-Nars, but he's still holding on to that position. Just ahead of Royce-Nars, that's 4th place. The top 3 getting away a little bit. All of this, I reckon, is going to allow Simon Walker-Hansel to catch the next batch of cars. Is he going to catch the leaders, though?
I think it will be crucial as to how quickly he gets through this next group. If he can pass the next group of cars quickly, he's got every chance. Number 38's in the field down at Tower. That's Russ Atwood from further down the order. But yes, on the back now of this group is the grey and green number 60 car of Simon Walker-Hansel, who I remind you started on the 19th row of the grid. He's already, by my reckoning, is he in the top 10 now? Yes, he is. He's in 10th place because he's found a way past Jack Johns. If he can get past this next half a dozen cars quickly and get the toe from the leading 3, there is time, I reckon, with 6 minutes left on the clock. He's not quite within striking direct range yet, though. Murray Shepherd there, the green and white number 2 car, is 4th. Carl Royce-Nars, the blue and yellow number 84, is 5th. Peter Hatfield behind him in 6th. No change of position this time through Clairvaux. And there, sideways, of course, is Simon Walker-Hansel, and behind him into the gravel goes Jack Johns.
And Simon Walker-Hansel's time, you saw go purple, that's number 1:43.20, fastest lap of the race, and the lap record as well, by 1/100th of a second, taking the record from Danny Andrew, who was the champion back in 2015.
That should only get quicker, though, I reckon, as the track conditions continue to improve. Of course, they've got another race, haven't they, tomorrow, the Locost, tomorrow morning. 2 more races tomorrow, which hopefully, at least one of them will be fully dry, so we should really see the lap times continue to tumble.
Off camera there, Greg Smith has made a bit of a mistake at Tower, the man who was going very quickly, and he loses a few more positions, I fancy, as we're watching Carl Royce-Nars there with Peter Hatfield just behind him and Paul Clark just behind him. This is the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th places. Mark Burton just behind in 8th, and Simon Walker-Hansel with Greg Smith off is up into 9th place as well now, and you can see Walker-Hansel with Smith. Martin West, number 94, just drifting his car through Sunny out that time. And he is still running there in 3rd place. There is Murray Shepherd trying to take it off him, though, as they went down into the complex, and he's not done it yet. So it's still Shepherd has, as there's someone running wide on the feed, and that was the number 87 car, Craig Land, from 17th position, going wide. But the leader comes through at the end of the 5th lap between Tom Gadd and Louis Wall. The gap has come down as well to 0.3 seconds now, so it's come down by 0.6 of a second on that lap. Wall doing the best lap of the race at 1:42.47, so now we're down into the 42s.
And for the first time this race, no positions gained by Simon Walker-Hansel, although he was apparently just about 9th position ahead of Greg Smith at the line. We're on to the final lap of the race, though, apparently, so running out of time now. We may squeeze another one in, actually, I think, because it's 13 minutes plus a lap, isn't it? The 13 minutes may have elapsed by the end of this one. We'll wait and see whether we get the checkered flag or not for the race lead. Meanwhile, it could be go time in that case for Louis Wall, who is trying to pull himself alongside race leader Tom Gadd down towards Tower. Couldn't quite do it on that occasion, though. For 3rd place, Murray Shepherd's up the inside of Martin West and does make it stick. So Murray Shepherd gaining a place, and behind them, Simon Walker-Hansel is up the inside and now ahead of triple winner here 12 months ago, Mark Burton.
So here is the race leader. That is Tom Gadd. Louis Wall in the Dayglow roll cage car right behind him. 1/3 of a second between them at the start of the lap. They head up towards the right-hander at Barcroft. Then it's the double right-hander, Sunny in and Sunny out. There's traffic that will start to come into play as well. It's got a gap back to the 3rd place battle now between Martin West and Murray Shepherd in particular. Here come the leaders, carving past the traffic then, including the number 72 car of Alex Artis, as they make their way into the complex this time. Through the complex they come then, only about a car length between Gadd and Wall, and it's Gadd that continues to lead. Now it's showing last lap on our screen. I've not yet seen the last lap board shown from the start line yet, so that's what we're keeping an eye on now to see what we get. And it's the last lap board is going out now, in fact, so they're now going on to their final lap. So it's going to be a 7-lap race. Gadd it is that's leading for Wall for the moment, but they go side by side down into Clairvaux corner, and it's a change of lead. Wall around the outside into Clairvaux, takes the lead of the race away from Tom Gadd.
Yeah, nicely done, and now can he escape? Doubtful, and indeed already he runs a bit wide, and Gaddy's back up the inside into the chicane. You can't run side by side through here, and Louis Wall knew that, backed out of it, lets Gadd back through. There's a back marker ahead of them now that needs to get out of the way. I'm sure it will. They're going to catch it halfway down the back straight. They pull to the left-hand side. That's fairly easily done in the end. 3 abreast behind, by the way, for 3rd place, and diving up the middle of everybody was that Paul Clark, possibly. I'm not quite sure who that was. That was Martin West's in there. Is that Walker Hansel? It's Walker Hansel, isn't it?
It is Simon Walker Hansel.
Into third position, would you believe? And what a move that was. We didn't catch it on the pictures, but he went up the middle of two cars. There's contact going towards the Jim Clark S's with Carl Roysenars, though. Did Carl gather that together? I think he might have in for the race lead. It's side by side as well towards Barcroft, and back into the lead goes Louis Wall, and he just about hangs on into Sonny as well.
Right, a third of a lap to go for Tom Gadd to try and get back through. Louis Wall won his first ever low-cost race about 3 years ago. That was in the rain at Alton Park. It was his first race in cars, having done supercars before. Can he cling on here? He's got Tom Gadd, who's yet to win a low-cost race, trying to get that first win under his belt, and they're side by side as they come into the complex. Not quite, they are using a lot of cover, and it's Wall that goes wide. Wall is out of contention now, surely. He goes very wide. Gadd just needs to get the hairpin right to bring it home to win his first race in the Demon Tweeks Yokohama Low-Cost Championship. He's negotiated it safely. The checkered flag is made ready, and it's going to be Tom Gadd that wins round 3 of the Demon Tweeks Yokohama Low-Cost Championship. But somehow, Louis Wall was far enough ahead to cling on to second place, and third place has gone to the man that started 38th, Simon Walker Hansel.
Another dull and uneventful low-cost race, hey? That was fantastic. So much great racing. There was so much great racing going on in the final laps. You didn't even get to see it all. The move Walker Hansel made for third was one of the moves of the day. Carl Roysenars, though, we saw him make that contact with Walker Hansel into the Jim Clark S, well, we did anyway, out of the comms box window. He has not yet come through, has he? So I fear that car may be damaged.
And neither did Paul Clark.
Yeah.
So that was another drive up in contention in that leading group, another car that hasn't come through. Interesting, Andrew Tate, the one that was pushed into the pit lane entry eventually, he did get back out there again, and he's going to come through now, and I think he's going to take 20th position.
Yes, and Paul Keynes also, I think, got to the end, didn't he? Yeah, he's 17th, despite spilling or whatever that fluid was. Clearly didn't need it, did he? So, well, a topsy-turvy race, but when we did get racing going after the red flag, it was thoroughly entertaining.
It was, and of course with Carl Roysenars not finishing, that's the championship leader, let's not forget, early days, but the championship leader having a non-finish. Who's going to come out on top of the championship after this one? We'll need to do some maths tonight, Andy, I think, to work out what the situation is before we go in tomorrow. Martin
West was second, but he only finished 6th. He was 2 points behind Roysenars, but of the ones that did well in that race, Tom Gadd was down in 15th, down in 12th in the championship, wasn't he? So yeah, there's a bit of shuffling that will go on, I think, in the championship equation. The good news for Roysenars, you dropped 3 finishes or 3 scores in the low-cost championship. So at the moment, that's only round 3, so drop scores haven't yet come into the equation. But when they do, he can sort of forget this race ever happened. He still, though, has to fight back tomorrow to try and get a couple of good results then.
Yeah, absolutely. So Martin West, it is, I think, that's going to come out with the strongest set of points after round 3, but 2 more races to go tomorrow. Don't forget 3 at Anglesey, only a fortnight away as well. It's been an entertaining old race in the Demon Tweeks Yokohama Low-Cost Championship. Then a win for Tom Gadd. The victory margin, 2.8 seconds it was in the end over Louis Wall. A further 1.4 seconds back in third place was Simon Walker Hansel. Peter Hatfield, number 6, was 4th. Mark Burton, number 1, was 5th, and Martin West, number 94, in 6th place. 7th went the way of number 2, Murray Shepherd, 8th to number 69, Greg Smith, 9th to number 33, Glenn Boyer, and 10th went the way of number 97, Jack Johns. But Tom Gadd there getting the congratulations of James Winstanley of the 750 Motor Club. Shortly James will hang the garland around Tom's neck. There we go, and he looks pretty happy, doesn't he, Tom Gadd? Let's hear from him now with Josh Barrett.
Thanks, Ian. So with our winner, Tom, your first win in the championship as well, but Louis didn't make it easy.
No, he certainly didn't. It was a great race. So we was always going to try and get away from the pack, and it worked. So I mean, he drove a great race, and it's just unfortunate he made a mistake at the end. But I mean, it was it's a great race.
Obviously, it's so hard to defend in low cost, but you were hanging on there, keeping him behind.
Yeah, I think I could see he was staying behind me on purpose. So I was sort of like, I knew he was going to make a move at some point. I was just waiting for it, and I was trying to get him back, but it was I missed my gear going into the hairpin, so he got alongside me down the main straight, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to try my best here, but then he made a mistake into the last corner, so got back through. But Yeah, it's all right.
After the chaotic races at Donington Park, just having a 2-car battle up front must have been quite nice.
Yeah, well, say at Donington we had 15 cars up front and anyone could have won it. It was nice to get away after I messed at the first start. I thought it was going to be a repeat of that, but no, I'm glad to see me and Louis broke away from the rest of the pack and made it a bit easier for me.
How are the conditions out there now?
It's all right. There's a drying line. It's a bit slick off the line, but I think the new surface here has made it just grippy everywhere, so it's all right out there, I think.
Well done to Tom Gadd, our winner in the first of 3 low-cost races this weekend, and his first win in the championship. Second place was Louis Wall. Louis, you gave it a good go, but I think a bit of a mistake at the end.
Yeah, slight mistake on the last corner. Well, one from last. Yeah, I just ran out of talent, I think, to be honest. It was a bit too of a schoolboy error for the last lap, but it was a good, clean race. It was good fun all the way through. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Damp offline, did that make overtaking a bit more difficult?
It did. It was a lot more treacherous offline, which is what happened to me. So yeah, you had to be very certain on the overtaking, but yeah, it was a good fun race.
A couple of races tomorrow to go one better.
That's the aim.
Well done. So that second place, Louis Wall. And over here, third place, right from the back of the grid. You've done this before, Simon.
Yeah, we've done it once a few weeks ago.
It's a much shorter race than that time, so you had to do overtaking quite quickly.
Yeah, it worked out. If we were going to win it, it was over 3 a lap, and I didn't quite do it.
It's the first time in this car. Richard Bradley was saying he doesn't know how you've done that drive, so tell us about it.
Just did the usual thing. I just tried my best, and with it drying, it was between wet and dry, and I think some of the drivers just had a bit of an edge, and with the slipstream, it meant that nobody's breaking away, and it was just picking them off one by one.
You've raced very different cars, so I think nothing really like you've raced before?
No, I've done some single-seater racing many years ago, but this is a bit different. I have driven one a couple of years ago on a track day for a bit of fun, and this is the first time I've been in this car, and Richard's prepped it. We had a bit of a problem in quali, but it was brilliant in the race. And
from the back again tomorrow?
Yeah, same in the morning, and then hopefully if we can finish somewhere like this, I think the third race you start where you finish, so we've got a better chance of maybe the top step.
Well done.
Right.
That was third place, Simon Walker-Hansel. Second was Louis Wall, but our race winner was Tom Gadd.